Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah and it is time for my October wrap-up. So I had 8 books on my TBR for October and I finished 8, however it wasn't the 8 that I originally intended. I read 7 from my TBR game and I have not finished one of them, and then I read an extra one as well. So let's just get into it. I'm gonna, I think, organize them just kind of like my lowest rating to my highest rating and just kind of do it that way. I think that'll be a little bit easier with going forward. So the first one, or the lowest rated book that I had, was The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. I went into this one fairly blind because everybody that has read it before has said that it's better to do it that way, and I kind of agree. It's hard to explain this one. It's basically surrounding a little girl who is about 6 or 7 years old that goes missing, and kind of different aspects that go along with that. You're following a few different perspectives. One is Ted, who possibly has some connection with it. There's the perspective of Olivia, which is his cat, and the perspective of Dee, which is the little girl's older sister. And that's all there really is to say as like a explanation of this book without giving any spoilers. I gave this one 2 stars. It was interesting, it was odd, but I didn't care for it. The way that it was written was good, it was different, and it was definitely different than anything that I usually read. I just didn't vibe with this. I didn't like the characters, I didn't care really about the characters. I didn't care about what was going on. I didn't care. I didn't have any interest in it. So I read, I think I read the first 60 pages and I was like, I kind of want to DNF this and I kind of wanted to see if it gets better. So I kept reading it and I kept reading it. And it didn't really feel like it went anywhere. You do get an explanation of what happened, but it was just I don't know, it just seemed like it was kind of a mashup. It was just kind of a hodgepodge of different things that just came together and you just kind of have to take it for what it is. So I didn't really get on with this book. I gave it 2 stars and it was fine. The next book that I finished, or my next highest rating, I would say would probably be the one that was not on my TBR for this month, and that was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. And I'll put a picture of it up here. I actually gave this one to my sister because she wanted it. She hadn't read it yet. And this one is a sci-fi thriller that is basically the question of if you could have lived an alternate life, if you could have changed things in one way or another, what would have happened? And that is basically what this book is about, that he gets taken from the life that he is in and put into this other alternate life, that he's still him, but it's just different things happened. This book, it was fine, it was interesting, it was intriguing, but it just felt like it got extremely repetitive, which I understand it to an extent has to be that way for the way that this book is written and the way that things play out. But it just kind of got to where it was too much for me. I felt like they just didn't, they didn't spend very much time in each place. There wasn't a whole lot of description of these places. And then the ending of it was so crazy. It was so weird that it got to where I was just like, okay, what the hell is happening right now? It was fine. I didn't have any big problems with the book. There wasn't anything wrong with it. It just wasn't my kind of thing, and it wasn't my favorite, so I gave it 3 stars. Moving on, the next book I'm going to do How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I gave this one maybe a 3.5 stars or so. It was a 3.5. This book, it had the creepy doll vibes completely. There's a movie, and I've never actually watched it. I think it's called like Dead Silence, that it has like the creepy ventriloquist dummy on the cover of the movie. It totally made me think of that. Like, this is a creepy ass doll. And it was really good, but I did not like the juvenile bickering. It felt like half of this book, half to 3/4 of this book was just brother and sister at odds of who's better, who did mom and dad like more, who got away with more, who, it was really juvenile, and I really got irritated with it. Some of the parts that were supposed to be, I don't know if they were supposed to be kind of creepy, but I just thought some of them were kind of funny. Like, there was a part with the squirrels. Like, if you've read this, then you totally know what I'm talking about. With the squirrels and the taxidermy, like, that part, it just made me laugh. I thought it was so funny because it was just so ridiculous having that, like, playing in my head, like, imagining it when I was reading that part. It cracked me up. But this book was good. It was a creepy doll thing, was definitely a creepy fucking doll thing. But the writing was good, and like I said, just that brother and sister bickering just drove me crazy, and it was so much of this book that it made it come down because I just could not handle it. It was driving me nuts. So this one I gave like a 3.5, 3 points, right in that range. I do have the Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix, which I would still like to read. I'm not writing off Grady Hendrix by any means. I still want to read more from him. This one, like I said, it was kind of a fun one. It was the creepy haunted house like I was wanting. It was just the characters in this book, they just didn't do it. So that one is what I gave that. Next rating that I have is The Hunger by Alma Katsu. This one is a story about the Donner Party and kind of a horrific take on a horrific event, I should say. It adds in a paranormal aspect to what happens with the Donner Party. This book, the atmosphere in this book was amazing. It was so creepy, and it was just, you get that secluded sense throughout the entire book that you're just kind of out in the middle of nowhere on your own, just having to figure it out. And you have all these creepy things or weird things that are happening. Very beginning, a little boy that is part of their wagon train, he disappears, and then a few days later, further up the trail, they find him, or what's left of him, because there is not much. And they're just like, what the heck happened? What did this? Was it wolves that have gotten him? Like, what is this? And so this one, the vibes were totally there, and it was amazing. But this book did move very, very slowly. I was really interested in this book because I just have a weird interest in what happened with the Donner Party, because it was just such a horrific event that happened years and years ago. So I'm always just kind of like morbidly curious about things that have to do with the Donner Party, just like I am with like Lizzie Borden. So that was why I really enjoyed this one. I think if you don't have interest in the Donner Party, or you don't like a slow-paced thriller that just kind of takes its time getting to the big event, I don't think you'll like this book. But I thought it was done really well. Alma Katsu did a great job of telling this story and really setting up that atmosphere. And I really, really enjoyed this. The fact that it was so slow did drop this down. It wasn't my new favorite book of all time, but it was really good and it was really interesting, which is why this one is at the 3.75 to 4-star range. The next one that I have that I'm going to talk about is The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I did just finish this one a couple of days ago, and it was good. I think I gave this one between a 3.75 and a 4-star as well, because the first 60 to 75 pages of this, I was so bored. I did not care about this character at all. I didn't care what she was going through. She talks about being 16 years old and that she hasn't had a period yet and how she isn't a woman yet and that she lives in this very, very secluded religious area or in this little town. And, you know, there was the prophet that is going to be marrying one of her friends and, you know, I just didn't care. And then it gets to that 60 to 75 page mark and she gets the book, the important book within this book. And that's where it started to get my attention. And that's where it started to get good. And this book ended up being really, really interesting. Characters drove me crazy. The main girl, Emmanuel, and Ezra, the soon-to-be next prophet. They were the only characters that I liked. Everybody else I didn't care about. But Emmanuel, she gets this book that has to do with her mother. And it's basically that she's following these clues, trying to figure out like more about her mother and her family, and kind of just gets thrown into the situation. And then Ezra is the to-be next prophet. He hasn't had a vision yet, but he is the prophet's heir. So he is the next in line to become prophet. And they form a really close friendship, just kind of accidentally. It just works out that way, that they kind of start to confide in each other, and then they start to depend on each other as the book goes on. And I really enjoyed their relationship. I liked that it wasn't so much a romantic relationship through the majority of this book. It was just a friendship. Like, you could tell that there was something there, but it was just a friendship. And that's how it was through this entire book. I really did like this one. I just didn't, like I said, I didn't really care at the beginning of it, but the rest of it got really interesting. So that's why I think this one is kind of like a low 4 stars or a high 3. I finished it. I did enjoy it, and I would recommend this if you do like kind of like Salem type opinion of what a Salem type book would be. This was a good one, and I would be interested in picking up more of her books. It was written really well. It was beautiful writing. I just, like I said, the beginning of this one just didn't catch my eye, but I am really, really glad that I finished it because it did turn out to be a very good book. The next one that I'm going to talk about was one of my highly anticipated books for October, and that was Pinata by Leopoldo Gao. This book is about a woman and her 2 daughters that they go to Mexico because she is an architect, and they are going to be refurbishing a old church into a hotel for the coming winter. And so the beginning of this book starts out that her and her daughters are in Mexico, and then an accident happens and they have to go to the States. But something from that church follows them back to the States, and just a really dark entity that follows them. And this book was like a 4.25 for me. I'm being very specific this month because some of them were just like, it wasn't amazing, but it wasn't terrible kind of thing. So this one was like a 4.25. I really, really enjoyed this book. The atmosphere was really, really done well. I really cared about this family and what happened to them and what was going on. And I was really rooting for them. The part that kind of hindered me with this book was because I don't know Spanish, and that made it a little bit difficult with reading it for me, for some of the character names of friends that they had at first. Like, it made it kind of difficult for me to process it at first. And then the names of this entity that follows them, I don't know, it just kind of took it a little bit away for me because I just had a hard time, just because it was a Spanish name that I couldn't even attempt to try and pronounce. But overall, this book was really solid. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so, so glad. And I would love to read some more of his writing, and I don't even know what else he's written, but I would absolutely love to try it. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this one. I gave this one like a 4 to a 4.25 stars. It was a little bit repetitive it felt like at times, that it just kind of like it was ambling on. But overall, really good book. It was a quick read. I read this one just within a couple of days and I really, really enjoyed it. The next book that I will talk about is another 4-star, and that is Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I kind of left my sister in the dust with this one because I wanted to read it and I wanted to get it done. I did really enjoy this one. I gave it a solid 4 stars. This one is about Evie, who goes to work as the personal assistant to the villain. It was a lot of fun. Their banter was really fun. The characters, I really enjoyed the villain's character in Evie. It was one of those characters that she was just kind of a klutz, and that's just how it went. She just kind of had a tendency to get herself into a pickle and just had to figure it out as she went. I also really liked Blade. He is the dragon master, that he is there to take care of the dragon, and for God's sakes, they name the dragon Fluffy. I mean, but this one I did really enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like a new all-time favorite. I felt like it really kind of, like it lagged a lot. I felt like it was just kind of talking to talk, kind of a feel for this one. The whole thing is they're trying to figure out that somebody has gotten either into the villain's castle or has access to information to try and sabotage his plans, and they're trying to figure out who it is. But I feel like a good portion of this book is just kind of talking in circles. They're kind of going nowhere. You're finding out that the villain has all this family and he has a past and stuff like that. So like there's a lot of that. And then the last like 50, 60 pages is when you actually solve the mystery and find out what's going on. So I felt like there was a lot of extra in there, but I believe this one is the first one to a series. So I'm really curious. Well, it had better be the first to a series with how it ended on this cliffhanger. But I am really curious to see where it goes in the next one. I did think this one was a lot of fun. There was some cute banter in here. I have a few tabs in there that I did really enjoy this one. So I gave this one a 4 stars. And last but not least, my 5-star read is probably no surprise if you have watched my videos very much, but my 5-star read for this month was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sengu Mandana. I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was really sweet. I absolutely loved Ian's character and really all of the characters, but Ian and Ken and the girls, like I just absolutely loved it. It was so sweet and it was so much fun, and I just was along for the ride and I was totally there for it. Like I am in such a mood to find more books like this. This one is described to be similar to House in the Cerulean Sea with that found family kind of vibe, and I absolutely got that. And I'm so glad because I loved House in the Cerulean Sea earlier this year, and this one was amazing as well. And I am so excited to try out some more of her work because I absolutely loved her writing. It was just a lot of fun, and it was a really cozy fantasy. There's a little bit of magic. There's a little bit of drama, and it was just, this book was amazing, and I absolutely loved it. So if you have any more recommendations similar to this, or books by similar to TJ Klune's writing, please let me know because I am totally looking for some more of it. So those are all the books that I finished in October. If you didn't notice, I do not have Dracula on this list because I did not finish it. I got up to, I think it was like 70 pages or so into it, and it switched perspectives from Jonathan's point of view to Mina's, and I completely lost interest. I did not want to keep reading it. So I do still want to pick it up. Again, it's not going to be right now. It's not. I have other things that I want to read. I'm kind of getting out of the horror thriller kind of Halloween-y vibes. I'm ready to move to something different. And so hopefully I will pick it up again soon at another time, but it just won't be right now. So I did not finish that one. So if you watched my November TBR knife throwing video, that means that my reward prompt is now moot. And my extra throw for that thriller is definitely going to be staying. So that's just the way that it pans out. I'm not even mad. But I did have a pretty good reading month. I got another 5-star. I found some new books that I really, really enjoyed. And I am excited to read more from a lot of these authors. I still want to try Catriona Ward again because I've heard her books tend to be pretty polarizing and kind of wild. So I do want to try another one of those. Sorry, the light is changing as the morning goes on. But I do have some really fun plans for November. Like I said, kind of getting away for the most part from the horrors and the thrillers for a while just because I need a break. And I just feel like I'm not enjoying them as much as I normally do. So I will be taking a break from those. And if you felt the same way about any of these books, or if you are now also inclined to pick up any of these that I have talked about, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. Also, if you have any recommendations for anything similar to this, I will be picking up Legends and Lattes this month, as well as a few other cozy fantasies. At least that's what I have planned. But I would love to have some more recommendations for anything similar to Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, or similar to T.J. Klune's House in the Cerulean Sea, Under a Whispering Door, or In the Lives of Puppets. Anything with those kind of vibes, please let me know. I would love to check those out. And yeah, so I hope you have a great Halloween tomorrow and a safe one. And have a great rest of your day and happy reading. Bye.